Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a literal nightmare for budget-conscious car buyers. Look, we all know aging vehicles get a little cranky, right? You worry about a dead battery, maybe a weird rattle over bumps. But what if the problem isn't just a minor headache? What if it's a catastrophic, bank account draining engine failure? Well, Consumer Reports pulled some massive data, and they've flagged a bunch of older, heavily depreciated used cars on the market right now that carry an absurd risk of needing a total engine rebuild. We took their data and ranked the top 10 vehicles from the last decade you absolutely positively need to avoid.
According to the Consumer Reports chief mechanic, some of these rebuilds happen because of low compression from worn piston rings, causing massive oil consumption. Others, well, they suffer from crankshaft or connecting rod bearing failure, which you'll usually hear as this terrifying knocking sound from under the hood. Okay, let's dive into this, because we are not talking about a flat tire here. We're talking about catastrophic mechanical meltdowns that leave you stranded and thousands of dollars in the hole. When you're buying used, the goal is obviously to save cash up front, but that initial savings means literally zero if you have to completely rebuild the engine a month later.
So let's get into the engine failure nightmare.
Starting with ranks 10 through 7, the high-cost headaches.
All right, kicking off our countdown. Take a close look at the data here, especially that danger zone mileage column right in the middle. At number 10, we've got the 2015 Volvo XC60. When Volvo rolled out their Drive-E engines, owners suddenly started getting hit with catastrophic fuel pump failures with absolutely zero warning, usually right between 60,000 and 86,000 miles. Then, jumping to rank 8, there's the 2015 Ford Mustang. Now, Ford's 2.3-liter EcoBoost is a beast of a turbo engine, but it runs insanely hot. It suffers from blown head gaskets and really heavy carbon buildup. Ford even had to admit the exhaust temps were way higher than they expected. Seriously, memorize that danger zone mileage because, as we're going to see, these cars are hitting a very predictable, very expensive wall.
And speaking of hitting a wall, $6,500.
Yeah, that is the average financial punch in the gut waiting for owners of our rank 9 car, the 2013 BMW X3. So BMW swapped their rock-solid inline-6 for a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that year. Kept the 240 horsepower, sure, but it brought along catastrophic timing belt and cylinder head failures. Right when this X3 hits that 83,000 to 93,000 mile danger zone, the engine just kind of gives up the ghost. And since you're paying the German engineering tax, that replacement is going to run you about $6,500.
Coming in at rank 7, we've got a fascinating tie. The 2011 to 2012 GMC Terrain and the 2011 to 2012 Chevy Equinox. Now, they might wear different brand badges and look totally different on the outside, but underneath, they share the exact same 2.4-liter inline-4 and 3.0-liter V6 engines. And because they share the same heart, they share the exact same fate. Both of these SUVs chew through piston rings and end up with knocking bearings that totally nuke the engine. And the data shows this happens like absolute clockwork, right around 86,000 miles.
Moving on to ranks 6 through 4, the escalating costs.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this massive number right here, 126,000. That is the staggering number of Audis named in a massive class action lawsuit, which brings us to rank 6. The 2011 Audi A4. As we move into the middle of the pack, these aren't just simple wear and tear issues anymore. We're talking about deeply ingrained factory flaws. The 2.0T turbocharged engine in the A4 was such an absolute cluster headache for owners that Audi and their parent company VW literally had to settle in court.
So, just how bad was it? Well, based on owner reports, between 42,000 and 77,000 miles, that 2.0T engine just starts guzzling oil at a completely voracious rate. Imagine this, having to pour a full quart of oil into your engine every 400 miles just to stop it from tearing itself apart. No way, right? And that doesn't even factor in the high-pressure fuel pump failures and the super short-lived ignition coils that just completely plague this specific model.
Then we hit rank 4, which honestly tests the devotion of some of the most fiercely loyal car owners on the planet. The 2012 Subaru Forester. Owners were reporting insanely severe oil consumption, like having to top it off every single time they drove the car, even with zero visible leaks. If you were really lucky, the dealership did a short block replacement under warranty, but if you missed that window, you were staring down the barrel of an $8,000 plus engine replacement. Oh, and just to add insult to injury, this model has a nasty habit of blowing its catalytic converter, throwing a check engine light, and instantly failing your state emissions test. The typical danger zone for the Forester? Roughly 81,000 to 129,000 miles.
Wait, hold on. Let's step back a second, because this brings us to rank 5, the 2013 Hyundai Santa Fe, and this eye-watering figure right here, $54 million. That was a massive cash penalty agreed upon by Hyundai Motor America and the NHTSA back in 2020. This insane fine is the tipping point. It marks the start of a snowballing, multi-vehicle crisis that basically dominates the entire rest of our list.
So what actually caused that $54 million penalty? It's something called the Theta 2 engine defect. See, during the factory machining operations for these 2.0 and 2.4-liter Theta 2 engines, metal debris was accidentally left right inside the engine block. As the engine runs, those metal shavings circulate, ripping up the bearings, which causes aggressive knocking, stalling, and eventually total engine failure. For the 2013 Santa Fe, this literal mechanical cancer starts killing the car between 74,000 and 100,000 miles. And as we're about to see, this defect spreads into an even bigger corporate disaster.
Now we enter the top 3 worst used cars for engine failure, the corporate crisis.
I gotta warn you, the pacing and the tone shift a bit here. We aren't just talking about busted budgets and expensive repairs anymore. We are entering an escalating tier of federal investigations, highway crashes, and literal fiery failures. Rank 3 is the 2011 Hyundai Sonata. It was supposed to be this huge top-tier sedan, but Consumer Reports slapped it with a devastating 1 out of 5 for reliability. And this brilliantly illustrates the widespread nature of the problem, because the Sonata suffers from that exact same Theta I metal debris defect we just talked about. The engine routinely seizes right after crossing that 72,000-mile mark. Plus, they got hit with an extra recall in 2018 for a fuel leak that seriously bumped up the risk of the whole car catching fire.
Coming in at rank 2 is the 2013 Kia Sorento. Now, Kia and Hyundai are corporate cousins, right? They share powertrains, so those exact same factory machining errors made their way straight into the Sorento's 2.4-liter direct injection engines. Just look at this stark reality from an owner in South Carolina. Engine seized away from home, oil burned up. That premature bearing wear makes the engine just suddenly lock up completely, usually around just 69,000 miles. I mean, imagine cruising down the interstate and your engine just becomes a solid brick of useless metal. Kia had to issue massive recalls because losing power suddenly like that dramatically increases your risk of a crash.
And here we are, the absolute worst offender on our entire list. Rank 1, the 2014 Kia Optima. It looks great, it's super affordable on the used market, but this is the single most complained about model year of them all. Over a third of every problem ever reported for this car is strictly engine-related. Almost half of the owners who dealt with sudden power loss and aggressive engine knocking ended up having to entirely replace the Optima's engine. It earned a totally dismal 1 out of 5 from Consumer Reports, and it is hands down the #1 used car likely to need a complete engine rebuild.
But guys, the data actually gets so much darker here. The NHTSA report on the 2013 and 2014 Kia Optima is packed with genuinely frightening accounts. We are talking about blown engines, sudden stalling in the middle of busy highways and city streets. The government literally documented 8 crashes, 13 injuries, and a staggering 44 fires, all resulting from blown Optima engines. So the crucial point is, this is no longer just a financial headache for you. This is a terrifying safety risk that triggered massive federal defect investigations and a major recall back in March 2020.
Which brings us to our final thought. The data from Consumer Reports really drives home one key point. A bargain isn't always a bargain. When you're standing on that used car lot, eyeing the sleek lines of a 2014 Optima or maybe a 2011 Audi A4, you really have to ask yourself, a cheap used car might save you a few bucks today, but is it really worth a catastrophic, dangerous rebuild tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep this data in your back pocket, stay informed, and definitely always check that vehicle history before you hand over your cash.